possibly a bit of a dark horse, maybe not so much of an outsider should we tag Enea Bastianini. We just saw him lead pit lane on the Red Bull KTM Tech 3 machine, fourth on the grid for the Beast. He has shown great race pace all weekend. His best qualifying on a KTM, best since he was on the front row of the grid in Balapan on our flyaway run towards the back end of last season. He was only off the front row by 7/100ths of a second. That was the Beast. And I have to say, Lewis, if anybody's going to come off that front row and threaten Mark Bezzecchi and the Gian Antonio, the Beast is leading those candidates behind.
You can see the rate of progress that Bastianini's been making so far through this season at KTM. Feels like a big result is coming on a Sunday. Of course, he's already taken the Sprint Saturday success as recently as Brno, and he'll be chasing a second visit to the medal ceremony over the course of the 13 laps we have to come. It's not a particularly long run down to the first corner, but we do know that KTM is very good off the line, so Bastianini could potentially stick his nose in that battle between Marc Marquez, Marco Bezzecchi and Gian Antonio down to turn one, or once turn one that we expect to be so crucial to the outcome.
Yeah, it's a high calibre second row of the grid, isn't it? Bastianini leading Frankie Morbidelli and Fabio Quartararo once again head and shoulders the standout Yamaha rider here in Hungary. Quartararo sixth fastest with a 1:37.642. He shaved 0.6 of a second off his best time compared to yesterday. There was a massive leap forward, wasn't it, in performance as far as Bez is concerned. He was 0.8 quicker than his Friday best to snatch that second place on the grid. Sighting lap then completed. It does feel like I've just made the relatively short walk from the media centre down to our commentary box position, which is just to the right-hand side of your picture there as you were looking. And although there's a bit of sun now starting to poke through some cloud cover, it did feel like it was certainly the coolest conditions of the weekend so far. We had a nice, bright, sunny start to Sprint Saturday this morning when we left the hotel close to nearby Lake Balaton. But some cloud cover, and it did feel like the wind has certainly picked up as well ahead of this 13-lap sprint. Could that be a factor at play in about 18 minutes' time when we're lights out?
It is quite a wide open circuit to the elements here, so there's a pretty flat circuit too. The wind can really whip up around this Balaton Park circuit. It feels like it's going to take a serious tailwind for the opposition to deny Marc Marquez potentially into another double, looking for second in a row here this weekend. And whilst some of his expected rivals made a mistake in qualifying earlier on today, Marc Marquez did not put a wheel wrong.
Well, we've just talked and big up the Beast, haven't we, because of his brilliant race run of form. Fourth on the grid, looking strong for a podium challenge in the Sprint and the Grand Prix tomorrow. Let's get a word with his crew chief, Aldi Giurabiola, who joins Jack.
Yeah, he's my dark horse for this one, and he's been in great form over the past couple of Grand Prix. Already yesterday, he looked strong in rhythm, Aldi, and he's put himself in a great spot front to the second row of the grid. How do you rate his chances here?
I think that in the last few races we are improving, always staying on the front. I think it's a good chance. We have to perform a little bit better on the starts because the last race was not the best. But I think we found something also there, so let's see.
The opening couple of corners we know are going to be really tight, really tricky here. Have you spoken with him in any way of trying to avoid the trouble?
Yeah, we have to understand for sure also how to unlock the front device in the first corner, because with the traffic and a lot of people in the small spot will not be easy, but we discuss it, so I hope that our strategy will be okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks to Alberto Giurabiola, of course, reunited with Enea Bastianini this season. For so long, he was crew chief, wasn't he, to Andrea Dovizioso when Ducati really started to find their winning touch once again in the MotoGP World Championship. Two VR46 Racing Team bikes in the top five. It's been an excellent Saturday so far. As far as Pablo Nieto's squad is concerned, the Gian Antonio on the front row for just the second time this season, just the fourth time in his 71 race MotoGP career. And now then, you did feel, certainly pre-qualifying this morning, that Pedro Acosta is going to be in a real strong battle with Marc Marquez for victory in this sprint. That still might be the case. Let's get the thoughts of his crew chief, Paul Trebath, who joins Jack.
Yeah, he does indeed. Great of Paul to join us. I know you'll want to look forward, but how much of a missed opportunity was this morning, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, sure. You know, after the weekend we put together, you know, the last few races he's been super solid. We're doing a good job. We just keep missing out a little bit in the qualifying. You know, of speed. Just picking up those moments, and you know, when you push on the limit, you push. But anyway, we're still somewhere handy. If we can get a good start and try to go with the guys, we see what we can do. The only big question mark here is the passing opportunities. It's a little bit tight and tricky. And if you do bomb past somebody, the chance of blocking yourself and blocking everyone else and the other guys getting away is really there. So got to be a little bit patient, I think.
Good luck.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks to Pedro Acosta's crew chief Paul Travatin. 3 Japanese bikes inside the top 10, Lewis, led by Fabio Quartararo, but good also to see 2 factory Hondas fighting strongly inside that top 10 at the Q2 this morning.
At one point, it looked like Joan Mir could be about to secure an unlikely front row. He did go up to 3rd place at one point during that Q2 session before some late improvements shuffled him back to the front of row 4, but some recent chassis updates seem to be having the desired effects down there at the factory Honda squad. Marini and Mir set to be in that battle for the lower reaches of the points in this afternoon's sprint. Quartararo, 6th place for him, feels like a real overachievement given the form that they've been showing, not just last weekend in Austria where it was an unmitigated disaster, but so far this weekend. He scraped through by 1,000th of a second yesterday in practice and then took full advantage to take the place on road 2. But what might play into his hands is that the overtaking is tough, so if he can get away in a decent position, he might just be able to hold the pack behind him at bay.
There is the scenic splendour of the nearby Lake Balaton. Plain sailing for whoever that was out on Lake Balaton right now, far from it as far as Pecco Bagnaia is concerned. 6 anti-clockwise circuits on the Grand Prix calendar: Austin, Aragon, Sachsenring, Philippine and Valencia, of course, still to come in 2025, where it's highly likely that Marc Marquez will already be crowned MotoGP World Champion by the time we get to Australia, and our latest addition to the Grand Prix calendar, Balaton Park, which is our 75th different track to host MotoGP, 32nd in the modern 4-stroke era. Jack just informing us, we know there was a new Honda chassis floating around the paddock last weekend in Austria. Marini and Mir obviously like it, 9th and 10th respectively on the grid. They are both using that new frame in this upcoming sprint.
Clearly, it has had the desired effects. It feels like Pecco Bagnaia would take anything right now to improve his lot. Of course, they have thrown all sorts at his particular problems. He's been changing brake discs, he's been changing chassis, they've been changing aero, all sorts of different setups, parameters to try and get Pecco Bagnaia that mystical, mythical front feeling that he's been missing throughout this season. But surely this is a new low for Paul Pecco in 2025. 15th position on the grid, his worst qualifying for over 3 years. And given that points only go down to 9th place in this TSO sprint, it feels like it would be a remarkable achievement if Pecco scores anything today.
Can you imagine a scenario pre-season where we were going to be talking about at any stage, any phase of the campaign, Pecco Bagnaia 15th on the grid, Poi Martin, the world champion, 17th on the grid. Tough times, dark times indeed for the Italian. No problem though for Marc Marquez on pole position. What do factory Ducati Vostalre Tolozzi think of the prospects of his 2 in this sprint? Let's get his thoughts right now, Jack.
Yeah, certainly 2 polar opposite moods inside the factory Ducati box at the moment. We're down here on row 5, Davide, not where we expect Pecco to be. Did you manage to get any answers to what happened this morning?
Yeah, we take a decision that we normally don't do it, to make a quite huge modification on the setup from this morning to the race. So we go in the race with the setup blame, you know, that we haven't tried this weekend yet. But, you know, there are moments when you have to take risk, and we take this risk.
For Marc, obviously, another pole position, the red-hot favourite here, who is going to be his biggest rivals?
Yeah, Marc shows race pace, and the pole position shows his speed, but in the end I think that it will be not an easy race. There are very fast riders like KTM, Bezzecchi, so it will be not very easy, because a bad start can compromise the race.
Thanks, Davide.
Go big or go home. It sounds like Bagnaia and his crew have gone big in terms of changes on the setup then of that Ducati GP25, that they have to try something out of the box, don't they? They've got to start these sort of more radical changes, you feel, because what they have been trying to do just has simply not been working of late. Marco Bezzecchi then, this is his third front row start in the last 4 Grand Prix. A couple of sprint podiums already for him this season in Assen and in Sachsenring. Can he once again take the fight to the number 93 Marc Marquez? Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Paolo Bonora with Jack.
Paolo, another front row for Marco, another remarkable Friday to Saturday turnarounds. Can he take the fight to Marc once again today?
Yeah, exactly as in Spielberg. We suffer a lot, we struggle during the Friday with both riders. But we did a good job yesterday night. We analyzed in a very good way the data. And to be honest, the key was to follow both the comment, and it was quite the same. Yeah, as well. Marco did a very good lap time for sure. He put everything on, together, and he achieved the Q2 and then a grateful second place. We are happy also about the Orge lap time. For sure he can do better, but talking to him is happy because he know that there is a potential on the bike. It's only something to put all together.
A big test of that new whole shot device for Marco. If it can work perfectly, he'll put himself in a great position.
Yeah, to be honest, starting from the second place is for sure an advantage, but you never know. In particular, in this first tight corner, it is necessary to be very careful and to don't take risk, to be able to be in the front position, so on the second split onward.
Good luck, Paolo. Thanks so much.
Yeah, always great to hear the thoughts then of Aprilia's Paolo Bonora, Fermin Aldeguer. What a last 10 laps he produced. Last time out in the Grand Prix of Austria. By far the quickest rider out on circuit. He was over 4 seconds back of the battle between Marquez and Marco Bezzecchi at one stage before he really did start to find some serious speed. Speed which ultimately carried him through to a career best Premier Class result so far. Second place in Spielberg. Alex Marquez, well, already faint hopes of toppling Marquez for the GP World Championship this year, but you feel almost sprint by sprint, Grand Prix by Grand Prix, those hopes fading faster. Already 142 points adrift, and Marc coming into this weekend's action 11th ahead of this sprint, 14th in the Grand Prix tomorrow. I think there's already a few people that are starting to believe what looked like a real long shot. Marc Marquez having the chance to maybe have his first match point to win the MotoGP World Championship in Misano in just a couple of rounds' time. Well, I think there's a few more people who are actually starting to believe that could be a genuine crack for Marc. Unbelievable, really.
Particularly with Alex Marquez starting so down the order at a circuit that looks like it's going to be so tough for overtaking. But we shall see. There's a reason they don't go racing on paper, they go racing on the racetrack, so we shall see just what kind of action we will see. It's certainly going to be fast and frenetic. What can Fabio Di Giannantonio do from the front row? What can Frankie Morbidelli do from row 2? Pablo Nieto from BR46, Jones Jack.
Yeah, he does indeed. Another of the great performances this morning was Fabio Di Giannantonio. A remarkable turnaround from yesterday, and his pace this morning looked pretty strong as well, Pablo. I imagine you're quite confident here.
Yeah, it was very important this morning, because we tried to make our best. It's true that here is going to be very difficult, but anyway, we have to be happy because it's a long time ago that we are not in front row. Last time was in Austin, so we have to try to make our best race, and then we will see. Good luck. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks to the R46 boss, Pablo Nieto. Yeah, round 3 was the last time we saw Di Giannantonio on the front row of the group. We haven't seen Morbidelli on the front row so far as yet in 2025. Fair play to Frankie, actually, because he put himself on the back foot, to say the least, yesterday when in FP1, the opening 45-minute session where you were just trying to gain knowledge and experience and some data around this Balaton Park circuit. Didn't really do his cause much good when he was on the floor at turn 1 and turn 15. So to be fifth on the grid 24 hours later, less than 24 hours later, was an excellent ride by Morbidelli.
An excellent ride by Fabio Quartararo, as you saw there on screens. As mentioned, certainly feel he rode above the Yamaha earlier on today. Next Yamaha is 14th on the grid, which just underlines the job that Quartararo did. Can he convert that into some more solid points today? As two of the paddock stalwarts there share a moment, Alberto Puig and Davide Tardozzi.
Yes, two who have seen firsthand the utter brilliance of the pole starter, number 93, Marc Marquez. So awesome for so many years, the talisman at Repsol Honda, and wasn't he? 6 world titles he won in the Premier Class for HRC, and at the moment he looks absolutely unstoppable as he charges towards what will be a 7th championship in the top class. This time around, that is a different story on the factory Ducati. Marquez then will lead the field away from pole position, 74th pole position in MotoGP. We're going to be keeping a very close eye on what's a really short 300-metre run down to that first corner. Very, very tight. Turn 1 and then turn 2. There was drama when the World Superbike Championship came here last month. Toprak Razgatlioglu completing the treble victory. Can Marc Marquez complete yet another double win here this weekend?
Never say never in MotoGP. We've said that so many times over the years, and a new venue does throw up an element of unpredictability, even if the grid might not necessarily back that up. But Marquez, yeah, surely the run is going to end at some point. So formidable, nigh on unbeatable on a Saturday afternoon so far this season. The start, though, is going to be, as mentioned, so important. If Marco Bezzecchi or Fabio Di Giannantonio, who share the front row with Marc Marquez, can get ahead of him into turn 1, that is, without question, their best shot.
Foil cooling cover on the tank of Marco Bezzecchi on the fairing of Marco Bezzecchi's factory Aprilia. Is there going to be a silver lining for Bez in this sprint? When we last went to a brand new circuit, he won the Grand Prix in India, and he won it in dominant fashion. 8 seconds clear of the pack on that occasion, starting from pole position. Marc Marquez is a serial winner when we've gone to new tracks previously. Austin in 2013, Argentina in 2014, Buram back in 2018. Can he add a Hungarian Grand Prix victory to what is already a very impressive CV? This, the 281st Grand Prix start for the 32-year-old Spaniard. A win tomorrow would push him on to 98 victories, and that will just continue the stories about the possibility of him winning Grand Prix number 100 in Valentino Rossi's backyard, the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli. Your front row of the grid then. First front row since round 3 in Austin for Fabio Di Giannantonio. Marco Bezzecchi, third front row start in the last 4 Grand Prix for the informer Aprilia star. He's second, but once again leading the field away for the 8th time this season from pole position. It's Marc Marquez and the factory Ducati. Sprint Saturdays in MotoGP have been the domain of Ducati for well over a year now. They're on course for what would be their 28th successive success in the Tissot Sprint. At the start of Sprint Saturdays on so many occasions already in 2025 has undoubtedly been factory Ducati star Marc Marquez. 13 sprints so far this season. Marc's worst finish, second to brother Alex in the sprint at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. The last 6 sprints in Aragon, in Mugello, in Assen, in Sachsenring, in Brno and in the Red Bull Ring, they have all been won by Marc Marquez. 13 sprints have taken place so far this season. 156 points have been available on Saturday afternoons. Marc has taken all but 3. An astonishing record that he brings into this 13-lap sprint here at at the Balaton Park circuit in Hungary. That real tight first sector, particularly the early part of it, the short run from the start-finish line into turns 1 and 2. It's a real bottleneck, a real pinch point into 2. We're going to hope all 21 riders can safely negotiate their way through, not just in this upcoming 13-lap sprint, but over the full race distance. Double the distance, 26 laps in the Grand Prix of Hungary. It's all been about the doubles of late for Marc Marquez, because after those 6 successive sprints, he has returned on Sunday and got the job done as well in the Grand Prix. The last time that Marc Marquez did not take the checkered flag first in any form was when he was 3rd over the line at Silverstone in the British Grand Prix. He's not yet, as mentioned, finished off the podium in a sprint this season. He hasn't even finished lower than 2nd. Can anybody knock him off his perch? Well, we're looking at 2 Italians on the front row. Marco Bezzecchi, 3rd in the Assen sprint, 2nd in the Sachsenring sprint. His 2 sprints podiums so far this season. Fabio Di Giannantonio, 3rd on the grid, 3rd at Silverstone in the sprint. His only visit to the medal ceremony so far in 2025. Keep an eye on the likes of Acosta and Aldeguer, who without any question have got great race pace, but have they already given themselves too much work to do qualifying on the 3rd row of the grid in what looks like being a notoriously difficult circuit to overtake on? And what about row 2 as well? Let's not discount the likes of Enea and Bastianini, looking for his 2nd sprint podium in the last 3 rounds on the Red Bull KTM Tech 3 machine. Frankie Morbidelli and Fabio Quartararo, 2 former factory Yamaha teammates, of course, side by side on that 2nd row of the grid. Quartararo comes to the grid in 6th place very late on. They all get the start devices engaged. The green flag then has cleared at the back for the first time in 33 years. MotoGP bus going to go racing in Hungary. It's lights out and racing in the sprint here in Balaton Park. It looked like a real nasty start further back to the field for Brad Binder on the factory KTM. He's dropping backward on the 33 bike. Quartararo's getting in tight in the first corner, and he's gone down. He has gone down. I think there was contact initially with Marco Bezzecchi and Fabio Di Giannantonio. We said it was a bottleneck. We said it was a pinch point. Quartararo comes off the worst of it. He's out already of this sprint at turn 1. Marquez leads.
That was coming from a mile off for Quartararo. It never looked like he was going to get it stopped on such a tight angle into turn 1. Bezzecchi delayed considerably by that. He's back to 8th place. It's the BR46 Ducati chasing Marquez.
So escaping all of the drama, just as he hoped he would do. That wasn't number 93. Marquez, Digia and Morbidelli leaning on each other, going through this sector 2. It's Di Giannantonio that has the advantage. The FI MotoGP stewards are going to take a close look at that incident with Quartararo. It pushed Bezzecchi back down to 8th place. He really did come out the wrong side of it. And Paul Enea Bastianini, who was also involved on the outside as Quartararo got pushed himself wide. Zarco's gone down.
Yeah, with
Swings is involved as well.
It's a KTM that's taking him down. That's the other Tech 3 back. So that's Bastianini trying to recover from his incident further on, and he's run into the back of Johan Zarco. So Rin's also delayed. So we've had at least 4 riders taken down on this first lap.
Well, there's been some early drama with Bastianini, now French duo, in this sprint, involved in that first corner melee with Quartararo. And now 2 of the most experienced riders out there in MotoGP have gone down early on. Let's just try and regroup then. Marc Marquez already stretching his legs at the front of this sprint. 6/10 clear of the Giannantonio. Face of thunder from poor old Johan Zarco. Lap 1 then completed. Marquez 8/10 now clear of the Giannantonio. Luca Marini has taken full advantage of some carnage unfolding ahead of him. He's up from 9th on the grid into 4th place. He dragged his teammate Joan Mir around with him as well, up from 10th to 5th. The factory Hondas, the big winners on lap 1.
Yeah, they came out smelling of roses of that first lap. A couple of riders who didn't. Pedro Acosta, he still dropped 4 places, even with all the mayhem up ahead of him. So watch Fabio Quartararo right on the extreme left of the picture as you look. You can see on the right of the picture, Binder going backwards from his pole start. So Quartararo, he's actually lost a place. And look, he's braking so much later, and he's desperately trying to pick his way through the gap. Without taking someone down, he runs 2 KTMs way out wide. That was where Acosta lost a lot of his time on the first lap. Bastianini taken down altogether, and watch Acosta. He has to check up too, because Bezzecchi had to check up to avoid the incident.
He's not a rider that normally makes those kind of rash mistakes, is he, Fabio Quartararo? You have to say that in his defence, but surely that has to be a penalty. That has to be a penalty. He was out of control, wasn't he, on the run down to that first corner. Just look how much damage to the rear tail unit that suffered for Bastianini, and then his sprint went from bad to worse. Ahead of the beast is Rins and Zarco. Now, who cleans out who?
It's an air into the back of Zarco. He's trying to make up progress, having lost all that time into turn one, just going for too much too soon in air.
Well, Quattararo is going to be busted surely with a penalty for the move he made on the beast in turn one, and there's a penalty coming the way of Anaya, because likewise he was out of control there. He had no hope of making that chicane. Back at the front then, as we picked off the replays of that dramatic lap one, Marc Marquez already second clear pretty much of the Gian Antonio in second spot. Morbidelli with an advantage of about 3/4 of a second in third, back to Luca Marini. Mir still fifth, Aldeguer sixth, Polispargaro and the moment Mario Vignala's injury replacement on course 4 points. He's down in 7th place ahead of Marco Bezzecchi. Nobody will need to tell Fabio Quattararo that he's blundered big time at the start of this, but he'll know exactly this was his key mistake. Let's just keep an eye on the number 20, Darty now to the inside line. Just looking there
already that he got it wrong.
Do you know what? The Gian Antonio and Bezzecchi really did dodge a bullet there, didn't they? Because they could have easily been cleaned out. Looks like there's a bit of a whack on the inner arm or the left elbow for Fabio Quattararo. A lot of damage to the left-hand side of those leathers. Potentially more damage is coming his way in the main Grand Prix here tomorrow, because FI MotoGP stewards will be busy looking at the Quattararo and Bastianini first lap incidents. The pair of them you do fear are in hot water.
Miro's having a look at the inside of Marini there into turn 11. Another one thing that Alberto Puig will be shouting at his screens now: don't, boys, whatever you do, 4th and 5th, don't take each other off when we're on for a big payday and a big result here, with both our riders up in the higher end of the points. Alex Marquez, who we're looking at there, is still back in 9th place. He's got a pretty illustrious group behind him. Martin 10th, then Acosta, Miller, Fernandez and Pecco Bagnaia. Despite 3 dropouts, Bagnaia only up 1 place.
Disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. This is humiliating right now for Bagnaia. He's going to have a face as red as his factory Ducati at the end of this sprint, because Bastianini, Zarco and Quattararo out, which would put him 17th theoretically. Without all that early drama, he's just making no progress forward whatsoever. Marc Marquez, to be fair to the Gian Antonio, he's rattling in the 137.5s himself to keep the gap to just under 1 second, but you just can't give Marquez this kind of early breathing space, can you? He's so good at leading from the front. Further back, Alex is in the point scoring places in 9th.
Has come into the pits. I don't know whether it's connected to what happened to him off the start or whether there's some other problem with his KTM, but we've lost Bastianini, one of the KTMs who qualified well. Binder out of play at the moment. The only KTM scoring is Polispargaro, who's in 8th place.
Yeah, Binder, I think he's going to head back out on circuit if he can, just to try and get some data and information on that factory KTM ahead of the 26th lap Grand Prix here tomorrow. Van Meer has been picked off by Fermin Aldeguer. I don't know if something's happened here to Meer, because straight away he's lost 7 tenths to Aldeguer, his fellow Spaniard ahead of him, so there might have been a mistake somewhere from the factory Honda rider.
Sector 2 somewhere. I wonder whether it might have overshot turn 5. We've seen a lot of that this weekend. Hopefully we'll catch a replay of that. What is the reason for Brad Binder pitting at the end of lap 3? Jack, down to you.
Yeah, you might be able to hear him just exiting now. Clearly he's had a contact on that first lap, because the front fairing was damaged beyond repair, so he's come in. They've quickly managed to swap a brand new front fairing on with a new pair of wings, and he's now heading back out.
Thanks ever so much, Jack. Yeah, Binder heading back out on circuit. Well, we know to make overtakes around the Balaton Park circuit, sometimes they're lunges, sometimes they're dive bombs. Mir out to the car park there, wasn't he, as he surrendered that 5th place. Mir's down in the 139s now, the 139 flat at the end of lap 4 of 13 for the Spanish rider. So he's losing ground with those ahead of him. He's under big pressure at the moment from Marco Bezzecchi. What about Pedro Acosta, who's been so good all weekend? He's just been picked off a 10 by Jorge Martin, the Martinator once again. We've talked about this all weekend, about his race pace is up there. His race pace is good enough for the podium, certainly for the top 6. So you can find that explosive one, that pace he used to have on the Ducati for fun, on that Aprilia. Well, watch out, folks, because Jorge Martin's going to be in the game.
It is Alex Marquez. He's trying to get himself into the points, but that's exactly what we've been talking about earlier on in this weekend. You can try and make a move into one of these chicanes, but you're only going to outbrake yourself, and Alex Marquez has to hand back that 8th place to Polispargaro.
And you could also see the domino effect, the knock-on effect was that Martin almost had to cut the throttle because otherwise he was just going to rear-end Marquez ahead of him. That almost allowed Acosta then to make a move behind Martin. We're actually riding on board right now with Acosta, who will be really, really kicking himself. And we're putting a size 7 in his backside himself, won't he, tonight, Acosta, because this is not what we expected from him at all. Outside the points, when he's been Marc Marquez's closest rival all weekend. The F1 MotoGP stewards are giving themselves plenty of ample time to investigate the two first lap incidents as Acosta tries to go side by side with Martin. On the brakes they go into turn one. Oh, he's going to go in hot though, isn't he? Martin will just hug the inside line. That's brave. It was bold by Acosta, but it didn't quite work out, and it's putting behind Martin again.
The steam coming out of Pedro Acosta's ears by the time this sprint is done. This is all not even for a point. This is for 10th place. Yes, he was unlucky off the line into turn one with the Quartararo back in the instant, picking him up into turn one, but that's exactly why you don't qualify on row 3.
Bagnaia has just put in his best lap of the sprint so far, a 1:38.433. That is a second, 1 full second slower than his Ducati teammate Marc Marquez. Those two are at the complete opposite ends of the performance scale right now, aren't they? Luca Marini, fair play to the Italian. He's just put in his best lap of the sprint so far as well, a 1:37.843. He's in 4th place, about half a second clear of Aldeguer. Unfortunately, Marini, he's sort of slipped back over a second now.
There goes Acosta.
Acosta, 3rd crash at the weekend, and it is all unravelling big style for Acosta. He had a heavy high side at turn 2 yesterday afternoon. A real costly high-speed tumble through turn 8 this morning, which cost him potentially a pole position, put him 7th on the grid, and he's just trying to make moves through on Jorge Martin. Well, that front tyre, he was just in hot, offline, and Acosta down. He's going to remount that factory KTM. Marc Marquez has just set the fastest lap of the sprint. He's getting on with it. Doesn't need to be running this pace because he's now destroying the field once again. A 1:37.315 on that 6th lap of 13. Marquez was half a second quicker than Fabio Di Gianantonio, and that's it, folks. Game over. He's now 1.8 clear of the Italian.
That Pedro Acosta crash was a rider who just had enough of following Jorge Martin. He was going to pass him. A crash trying. It was the latter. Given how strong his Friday went, that is not the Saturday I thought Pedro Acosta was going to have.
No, I don't think any of us could see that one coming. Marini with Aldeguer for company as they try to hunt down Frankie Morbidelli ahead of them. The gap between Morbidelli and Marini is now down to just under 9/10 of a second. We kind of feared for Marini at this stage of the sprint, given how strong late on we know Aldeguer is. Even the short format of the sprints, his late speed is nothing short of sensational, but this is brilliant by Marini. Some of the recent upgrades, new electronics, new aero, and last weekend in Austria as well, a new chassis, really are, they might just be baby steps, but they are moving HRC in the right direction. This would be brilliant by Marini in 4th spot.
Alex Rins is still on that penalty, by the way. One with a shoot for a shortcut. Yeah, he's taking the shortcut at the final chicane, turns 15 and 16. This is Alex Marquez finally getting the move done on Paul Espargaro. He's had a couple of dress rehearsals for this, but on that occasion, as they head into the first of the chicanes, Alex Marquez did get the move done. He is now up into 8th place, up ahead of Paul Espargaro, who still holds that final World Championship point for KTM.
37.633. That lap 7 of 13 from Marc, as opposed to a 38.2 from the Gianantonio in 2nd place. There's only one other rider out on circuit right now that is still in the 37s. Guess who, folks? We talked about his prowess being so good on used rubber. It is Aldeguer, who we're looking at right now on the 54 bike. Boy, if only Aldeguer could qualify and get something out of a soft type. Do you know what? He's one of the only riders at the moment. It looks like he might have something for Marc.
Well, he's catching Marini, but Marini is in turn catching Frankie Morbidelli. On the last lap, Marini was a 1/4 of a second quicker, and then Frankie got the gap down to 3/4 of a second. So Marini, I'm sure in his mind, is not thinking about defence. He's thinking of attack and a potential bronze medal up the road.
Personal best laps on the last lap for both Alex Marquez and Jorge Martin. Fair play to Martin, down to a 1:38.130. Track commits for him then, coming in for Marc Marquez. Just something to occupy his mind.
As it stands,
There's more replays of the the start, we're on board with Fabio Di Giannantonio. He launched away from third on the grid. You're going to get a blue flash now down the right-hand side of your screen. There it goes. Fabio Quartararo. We were just talking with each other in the commentary box here.
Didn't miss Marquez by much.
He didn't. I mean, it was close. He could have cleaned out 3 or 4 there, couldn't he? Di Giannantonio and Bezzecchi were particularly fortunate. Bastianini not so, as he got pushed out wide. He's not a hot-headed rider, is he, Fabio Quartararo? That is a very, very uncharacteristic mistake by Fabio. I'm sure he's going to be very, very apologetic to those riders who he compromised their sprints right here.
Luca Marini's just on a 37.7, his personal best lap of the sprint. He's taken another quarter of a second out of Frankie Morbidelli. He's not bothered about Aldeguer, although Aldeguer is right on his rear tyre. Marini's thinking about a podium here, and this battle could involve 3 or 4 riders yet, because Marini, Aldeguer and Mir all in the 37s and all quicker than Frankie Morbidelli.
He does have 4 sprint podiums, Luca Marini. That, of course, was when he was on the VR46 Ducati. None since Qatar 2023. By far one of his best performances so far on that factory Honda. You can see it was chattering its brains out there as he squeezed a handful of brake as we're in this second sector. Aldeguer just going to be patient here, because we know fine margins in terms of the braking zone, so you've got to be millimetre perfect to make the passes clean. So he's just got to bide his time, because at the moment as he runs all over the rear tyre Marini, it seems like he's got the better pace, but Marini, he's a big fella to try and make a move on, isn't he? Not going to be easy to pass.
KTM are now scoring nothing in this sprint, unbelievably. Pol Espargaro has just been passed for 9th by Jorge Martin, the world champion, is now into the points. So Pol Espargaro 10th, and it's Ralph Fernandez, Miller and Pecco Bagnaia still nailed down in 13th place, only promoted, of course, by that crash of Pedro Acosta.
Podium pace, Martin, you bet he has. He is just dynamite at the moment, is the Martinator, down into the low 139s. Alex Marquez also, to be fair, currently is running a real hot pace, faster than his brother Mark and Di Giannantonio, the top 2 on that previous lap. Mark with a commanding 2.2 second buffer over Digia. He's got breathing space of 1.2 seconds then back to Morbidelli, who certainly can't breathe and relax in that 3rd place, because Marini still just 8/10 further back. He's got his work cut out trying to hold back this incessant charge from Aldeguer.
Morbidelli has responded on that last lap and has been able to eke that advantage out a little bit more over the Marini Aldeguer chasing group. Mears still doing 37s. Fastest rider on track at the moment, actually, is the other Aprilia. The Aprilia is coming on strong late in the sprint. Bezzecchi 7th, doing 37.7s. He's now closing in on the back of the 2nd of the factory Hondas.
Lap 10 of 13. Pecco Bagnaia is 12.5 seconds behind his teammate Marc Marquez. It's going from bad to worse. Not that we thought he could do as far as Bagnaia was concerned, but it is Ralph Fernandez on the track out of Aprilia, the latest rider to get a track limits warning. Marco Bezzecchi, well, he had to pick up, didn't he, to avoid the charging Quartararo on the brakes into that first corner. That really did sort of curtail any hopes he had of fighting for the podium. At the moment, Bez in 7th place. He's running a pretty strong pace as well right now. He's just on a 137.754. So once again, just having a quick look actually on that last lap, yeah, Bez was the fastest rider out on circuit, with Alex Marquez not too far behind him in 8th.
Big result coming here for VR46 Ducati, potentially 2nd and 3rd for Fabio Di Giannantonio and Frankie Morbidelli. They scored no points at all. Well, 5 points for Frankie Morbidelli, but no top 10 for them on the Sunday in Austria. It's been, I guess, a little bit of a lead spell for VR46. Missed out on a big result, famously, of course, in Germany, when Di Giannantonio crashed out of what would have been a very strong 2nd place in the end. So they won't want to let this podium, double podium, slip so late on in the sprint.
Stretchy, nervous, unsettled, the front end of that factory Ducati in the hands of Bagnaia, breaking down into that first corner. Oliveira and Ayakura sensing that they might be able to claim the scalp of Bagnaia late on in this sprint. This is the battle for 13th place. Alex Marquez's late sprint speed has been sensational. We're keeping a close eye on Alex. I think it's 3 or 4 laps in a row now. He's set personal best laps. He's done another one, a 137.713. Another rider like Acosta, who is going to be cursing a poor qualifying, because if he qualified a lot better, potentially top 6 front row, Alex is going to be picking up a medal today.
I think you can deduce from what we've seen in the sprint today that the experimental, risky setting down at factory Ducati, or Pecco Bagnaia Ducati, has not transformed his fortunes. He's down still in that 13th place. He won't be scoring any points unless something extraordinary happens in the final 3 laps of this sprint. but we've got a human being doing superhuman things out front. Marc Marquez still 2.5 seconds clear of Fabio Di Giannantonio in a 10-lap sprint, which Marc Marquez appeared to have won from the moment he got out of turn number 1. Once Fabio Quartararo missed him into turn 1, Marc Marquez's last realistic threat was gone.
It's round 14. We are about to witness a 13th successive victory for Marc Marquez. This golden run is going to end with yet another gold medal thrown around his neck. It's going to be surely a 7th successive sprint victory, on course for a 7th successive double, and powering towards a 7th MotoGP World Championship. Just right now, an immovable force at the top of the MotoGP World Championship. Giannantonio, I think he's going to look to be safe in that second place. Excellent job by Digia, when you consider he only just scraped through into Q2 this morning, having set the second best lap against Brad Binder. They tied on lap times at the end of Q1, but it was Digia that went through by the skin of his teeth. And he really is taking advantage of it, to be fair, because after getting through from Q1, he's on the front row. Now it looks like he's going to pick up some silverware.
Credit to Morbidelli too, he has well and truly responded to the potential threat from his VR46 stablemate Luca Marini. Morbidelli has dropped back down to the 137s now on the second of the VR46 Ducatis, and he's well and truly put Luca Marini in his box, I guess, and Marini now firmly is focused on preserving that 4th place and keeping Aldeguer and Mir behind him.
I've got to say, full credit, huge credit to Marini here, because it looked like, to all intents and purposes, that Aldeguer was going to make quite light work of the Honda when he got onto his rear tyre, but Marini has resisted quite brilliantly. Aldeguer just has not really been able to show Marini his front wheel, and that just shows what an outstanding job this is by Marini. Just wonder maybe whether there was some front tyre temperature pressure issues for Aldeguer as he had to come through from mid-pack, but at the moment, as the last lap starts, he's nothing for Marini. Last lap then that's underway with Marc in cruise control, 2.5 seconds clear after Giannantonio and Morbidelli. Those two back into the 137 as they look to secure a double podium for VR46. Marini on course for a stunning 4th place ahead of Aldeguer. They pretty much lapping at the same times, 138.1s. Mir is just about standing firm against Bez for a double top 6 for HRC.
Yeah, Bez is right up there as one of the fastest riders on track in the latter stages of this sprint. He's probably going to run out of time there. Aldeguer up ahead. Looks like he's gone a little bit hot. He's now fallen back towards Joan Mir, and that looks like it's given Luca Marini a final lap worth of breathing space.
Yeah, Aldeguer was almost on the floor there. Gresini Ducati was all out of shape. He did well there to stay upright. Bezzecchi trying to come from a long, long way back on Mir. There's no way through. These three now have also bunched up together after the big error by Aldeguer. Clear at the front, 2.2 seconds clear at the front now. He could not even get out of 3rd gear, and Marc would still win this sprint here on this last lap in Hungary. It's been yet another brilliant success. Pole position and another flag-to-flag victory incoming for 93.
The battle here is that battle for 5th, 6th and 7th. The VR46 Ducatis have certainly kept Marc Marquez reasonably honest. They're still doing 137s, but Marc Marquez in a class of his own out front.
He is in a class of his own, a league of his own. He takes another stride towards the 2025 MotoGP World Championship, making that now 13 sprint wins in 14 so far this season. It's 13 wins now in a row for number 93. Fabio Di Giannantonio and Frankie Morbidelli come home 2nd and 3rd to make it a double podium for VR46 Racing. Jubilant scenes for the Italian garage. Luca Marini, what a ride by him. 4th place on the updated factory Honda. Superb by the Italian. Aldeguer and Mir take the top 6 out of Bezzecchi. Points for Alex Marquez and a point for Jorge Martin. What a ride by the world champion, coming through from 17th on the grid to 9th place. Of course, he was given a little bit of a helping hand early on, well, very early on, as Fabio Quartararo went careering into turn 1, almost collected both Bez and the Giannantonio. Did make contact with Bastianini. That first corner exit will be looked at by the F1 MotoGP stewards, and a little bit further round on that intense and dramatic opening lap, it was Bastianini himself who was the perpetrator of a big mistake when he clattered into the back of poor old Johann Zarco on the LCR Honda. Both opening lap incidents reviewed post-sprint by the FIA MotoGP stewards. Great job by Luca Marini, starting 9th, taking the checkered flag in 4th place. A great job by the two Italians, the Gianantonio and Morbidelli. But once again on Sprint Saturday, he has proven to be simply the best, simply sensational. Marc Marquez now wins in the sprints in Buriram, Termas, Austin, Qatar, Jerez, Le Mans, Aragon, Mugello, Assen, Sachsenring, Brno, Red Bull Ring, Hungary. 13 successive wins, 13 sprints so far this season. And I think now we're all starting to genuinely believe what looked like mission impossible to maybe have his first match point to win the championship this year as early as Misano. Well, that's not looking like fantasy at all right now, is it?
Well, Marc Marquez is not going to slow down. It's for the others to catch him up, and today no one could catch him up. His World Championship lead is now up to an incredible 152 points, but a double podium today for VR46. How's Pablo Nieto feeling? He's for Jack.
Yeah, what an incredible result, Pablo. A turnaround, we said on the grid. Did you outside of the top 10 yesterday? Frankie was on the floor twice yesterday, and now both guys on the podium. What a job by the team.
Yeah, very good. We are very, very happy. We saw that the first lap was very, very important. First corner it was a little bit crazy, and we was a little bit lucky, but this is races, no? Then we have our path. We have to do it a very difficult race because also Marini was very fast and the girl was coming. So amazing. Good Saturday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll put that down as a very good Saturday for Pertamina Enduro VR46 Racing. Fabio Di Gianantonio, just his second sprint podium of the season. Frankie Morbidelli's going to get a medal for just his second sprint podium of the season as well. He's getting weighed down with medals in 2025, is Marc Marquez, because he has done it again. He's done the business at Balaton Park. Simply untouchable. Just, how many times have we said this so far this season? He's just too good. He is just too good. Davide Tardozzi and Gigi Dall'Igna are all smiles down in Parc Ferme. Trust us, folks. Inside the other half of that factory, Ducati garage, and there's going to be no smiles at all. Just more frustration, more anger, and more questions as far as Pecco Bagnaia is concerned. The Italian limping home in a fortuitous 13th place. 13th when you consider that both all Bastianini, Quartararo and Zarco were out of contention.
So Gemma Pinto then, Marc Marquez's better half there, who's now being greeted by Davide Tardozzi. I'm sure she'd rather have the face of Marc Marquez blowing her kisses, but Marc Marquez, I don't think will complain with that too much. Pecco Bagnaia does at least raise a wave and a smile. His time will come again, but at the moment, Pecco Bagnaia, I think the only question he's asking at the moment is, what time's my flight back to Italy?
Yeah, he's gulping from the monster bottle. He's got monster problems right now. Brilliant day. What a Saturday it's been for the factory Honda team. Luca Marini, we saw him get the congratulations quite rightly from the boss Alberto Puig when he made his way to the back of the garage. Joan Mir, 6th place for him as well. Of course, he was 6th in the Grand Prix last weekend in Spielberg, just his second top 6 on a Sunday on a factory Honda. Looks like, doesn't it? HRC, Romano and Siaran calling the shots in terms of the technical department. They are starting to make some solid forward progress. A solid, well, a more than solid, a super Saturday as far as Pertamina Enduro VR46 are concerned. A double podium for Fabio Di Gianantonio and Frankie Morbidelli. Didier needed that one to steady the ship. He's had 3 successive no scores in Grand Prix on the Ducati DNFs in Sachsenring when he was 2nd, 16th in a very underwhelming Brno in the Grand Prix, and a DNF last time out in Austria. So that is certainly going to get some confidence back for Di Gianantonio. One rider, one team, one factory that's certainly not lacking confidence at all. There's that group on your screens right now. Marc Marquez, brilliant. Best sprint result with Honda. No wonder he's got a big smile on his face. Excellent. 9th, he started the sprint. 4th at the checkered flag. Hard work pays big rewards sometimes, Lewis. He's had to dig deep at times. He's been under pressure. Questions about whether he's the right fit for the factory Honda. Could he develop a bike? Well, I think we're getting our answer.
Just think of how injured he was around 3 or 4 months ago. Less than that, Luca Marini was seriously injured in a crash at Suzuka. Frankie Morbidelli then, one half of a double sprint podium for VR46. Let's get Frankie's thoughts now with Jack.
Frankie, what a brilliant result for yourself, a brilliant result for the team. Yesterday morning started off in the worst possible way, but what a turnaround that is to end up on the podium. Just how proud are you to have turned it around like that?
I'm really happy because today we had a really solid Saturday. We got back the rhythm from the injury, so I'm happy. It's a good Saturday for me, for the crew, for the team, for the whole team. Also, Dija did an amazing race. We were there behind Mark. We could see him. Really good. Let's see what we can do tomorrow.
Great ride, well done.
Thank you.
Sprint podiums have been few and far between as far as Frankie Morbidelli is concerned. He had to work hard for that one. Just his third in the new sprint era. And it's been a tough weekend, so it's an excellent result. Excellent outcome for Frankie after the 2 Friday crashes. And as he just pointed out as well, of course, it wasn't that long ago where he had that shocking crash, that high-speed crash in the wet Sachsenring sprint, which forced him out of Brno. Alex Marquez loses more ground in this World Championship chase. It's felt for a long time like it's a futile pursuit with brother Mark. In terms of the championship, it's becoming pretty much mission impossible right now, isn't it? It's a thankless task trying to compete with Mark in his current golden run of form. Alex takes the checker flag in 8th place. Not bad, considering he started 11th. He's got more work to do tomorrow from 14th place. Fabio Di Gianantonio, though, leads home a double podium for VR46 Racing. Second in the sprint, and he's with Jack.
Fabio from outside of the top 10 yesterday to onto the front row, now with a silver medal around your neck, and what a day for the team. Plus, just tell us your point of view from the opening corner as well. It looked really close with the other Fabio.
Yeah, well, as always when we arrive in a new track, especially when the first corner is pretty slow, like here, or maybe other experienced track that we have in the calendar, we know that it's pretty crucial, and today has been chaotic. Luckily for me was more or less okay, but yeah, I just want to thank all the team. I think we've done an incredible job for both bikes. It's amazing to have both bikes on the podium today. Me and Frankie here having not super time in the last weekend, so be back on the podium together here was super important and super grateful and happy for the team.
Great job, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job. A third sprint podium for Frankie Morbidelli, and likewise for his teammate Fabio Di Gianantonio. That's a great shot. I'm sure Valentino Rossi's watching his riders back at home, and they'll certainly make for pleasant viewing as they celebrate a double podium. Setting himself up to celebrate, though, yet another double victory in this unbelievable 2025 World Championship. Here's Marc Marquez, pole position, his 13th sprint win in 14 so far this year. We had a little bit of a joke with Frankie Morbidelli and Fabio Di Gianantonio, but it's no joke right now, is it, for the chasing pack in MotoGP as he wins yet another sprint. Marc Marquez, your winner here in Balaton with Jack.
Mark, huge congratulations. Sprint victory number 12 plus 1, and that one looked pretty straightforward, but it all came down to that opening corner. Could you hear what was going on behind?
Yeah, no. Just I heard somebody super close in the first corner, but from that point, just I tried to take my rhythm. First lap already I was riding in a very good way, and then yeah, just tried to keep a constant pace. I saw that was enough to open a gap. So yeah, happy. So now we need to analyze everything to understand the rear tire for tomorrow. But a part of that, we did a big step this morning. We were working super hard yesterday, and today I felt much better.
Brilliant ride, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he's only going to feel better, you feel, once again in the 26th lap Grand Prix of Hungary here tomorrow. It's the master, he's the maestro, and could he beat Mazzano, where he wins the MotoGP World Championship? It already feels like it's just, well, it feels like a matter of time, isn't it, before he does win that elusive 7th World Championship, one that has eluded him since 2019, through all the injury hell, through all the pain. Well, at the moment, Marc Marquez, I don't think anybody can have any sort of quibbles with the fact that this is the best version of Marc Marquez right now. Yes, he's on the best bike. He's on a strong Ducati, or is it the best bike? I mean, some will say the GP24 Ducati is stronger than the GP25. It's just the magic of Marc, which continues to make things happen out on circuit. Another all Ducati top three, and it is their 28th successive sprint victory.
Well, it was an all Ducati sprint podium, and it was a Ducati GP25 1-2 at least. Pecco Bagnaia, of course, had all manner of issues. Morbidelli is a second sprint podium of the season. Of course, last time he was on a sprint podium in Qatar, he went on to finish on the podium on the Sunday night, even if that was a post-race penalty that handed it to him. Second place in silver for Fabio Di Giannantonio. It's a second sprint podium of the season. His previous one came at Silverstone. But for Marc Marquez, the numbers don't really do justice. He is winning sprints, he is winning races for fun in 2025. He's halfway to a 7th consecutive double.
Halfway through the Grand Prix of Hungary, our first since 1992. We have had 27 sprints and Grand Prix. Marc Marquez now extends his winning streak to 22. Incredible. That was sprint win number 14 in total. He's at 13th for 2025. A great day for Honda. First time they've had two bikes finish inside the top 6 in a sprint. The good times might feel still a long, long way away as far as HRC are concerned, but they are making steps in the right direction, taking giant steps towards a 7th MotoGP World Championship is Marc Marquez, who has just been once again on another level. Maybe caught a little bit of a break, avoiding all the Quartararo-caused chaos at the first corner. But let's be honest, once he was clear of the pack, it never ever for 1 second looked like there was going to be any other outcome other than another sprint in 2025. Going the way of the factory Ducati star, who moves on to 430 points. 430 points, only halfway through. At round 14. How many points will Marc Marquez have amassed by the time we get to our season finale at Ricardo Thomas Circuit in Valencia in mid-November? There's going to be records galore smashed in the final 9.5 Grand Prix of 2025, make no mistake. He took the checker flag eventually, just over 2 seconds clear of Di Giannantonio, but of course he throttled off at the end of that sprint. No sense in taking any big risks. As the 93 prevails, once again, from an 8th pole position, he converts it into a 13th sprint victory. No wonder there's a big smile on the face of VR46 boss Pablo Nieto. A round of applause from Davide Tardozzi. The clenched fist from Marc Marquez. More Prosecco pops as far as the 93 is concerned, as Pecco Bagnaia's bubble popped once again as he finished in a lonely 30.
All Ducati sprint podium, Marc Marquez from Fabio Di Giannantonio and Frankie Morbidelli. Luca Brini, his best sprint result on 104. Fermin Aldeguer just about getting through in the end to 5th after a last lap mistake almost put him under pressure. Juan Mir 6th ahead of Marco Bezzecchi. Alex Marquez who did salvage a couple of points, and Jorge Martin, the final sprint point. Early drama saw Enea Bastianini taken out by Johann Zarco. He then picked his bike up and took out Johann Zarco. Later around the first lap, all three retirements. Pedro Costa also delayed in that first lap incident. He would later crash on his way back through the field. So Marc Marquez's World Championship lead is 152 points. The magic number he needs, by the way, by the time we leave Misano, is 222. If he extends that by another 70 in the next 2.5 Grand Prix weekends, the championship is his in Italy. Pecco Bagnaia is third in the World Championship. He's now 40 ahead of Marco Bezzecchi, who scored 3 points today. Fabio Di Giannantonio and Frankie Morbidelli back ahead, back clear of Pedro Acosta, who scored nothing today. Constructors' Championship, well, Ducati will be wrapping this one up fairly soon, won't they? Aprilia are 17 points clear of KTM as Honda strengthen their position in fourth. Teams Championship. Well, fun fact, Marc Marquez will be leading this one all on his own for the Ducati Lenovo team. He's got 430 points. As it is, they're 651. See then 247 clear of second place Gresini. Independent rider standings. Well, Alex Marquez's lead cut today, but he is still in a very strong position. 125 points clear of Fabio Di Giannantonio, who moves 2 points clear of his teammate Frankie Morbidelli today. Independent teams points, well, it was 5th and 8th for Gresini today. Second and third for BR46, the gap back down to 100 points. Years in the making. MotoGP finally went racing once again in Hungary. Brad Binder's start, as you can see, didn't go very well. KTM's fortunes didn't improve much by the time they got down to turn 1, as Fabio Quartararo couldn't get his Yamaha stopped and knocked Enea Bastianini way down to the back of the field. Pedro Costa also delayed in that. That dropped him out of the points, and he would never get back in them. Further round, we saw contact between Enea Bastianini and Johann Zarco, which took the LCR Honda out of the running. The next run was also delayed as he skated across the chicane. So Jorge Martin was in a battle with Pedro Acosta. This was for 10th place in the early stages. Patience was beginning to run out, though, for the 37, as he launched one up the inside of the factory Aprilia. It all ended in tears. BR46 Ducatis were certainly keeping Marc Marquez within view. The Balapan.
history never ends. The beast, who is great in Britain. Bastianini wins the Tissot sprint here at Silverstone. First victory here for the Italian. 75-year anniversary celebration. What a journey, what an adventure it has been since the World Championship started in the late 1940s. 1 point splitting World Championship leader Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. Lights out, and we are racing in MotoGP here in this historic British Grand Prix. The dream launch from the middle of that front row by the world champion Aleix Espargaro, sandwiched in between Jorge Martin and Enea Bastianini. It's a factory Ducati 1-2. Bagnaia leads.
Yeah.
There was contact there. Aleix Espargaro down to 5th from pole. Bastianini's got him really hot. The beast slips back to 3rd. And now on the inside comes 93 Marc Marquez.
Brave move from Alex Marquez. Di Giannantonio going to hang it around the outside. Bastianini's decided now is the moment to strike. Aleix Espargaro very, very late on the brakes. Bastianini now up into the top 3.
As Martin's going for it on the inside of Bagnaia. Jorge Martin then takes the lead as he stands at the moment. He leads the MotoGP World Championship. Look at the anxious faces.
Martin goes wide though into turn 3 Village corner, but he's got the inside line now for the loop. And Enea Bastianini is now being brought right onto the tail of our leading 2. Bagnaia is struggling.
He goes wide through Luffield. Okay then, Beast, what have you got for a British Grand Prix double here then now? That was an absolute belting lap from Bastianini. As Martin has blinked, he has blinked and made a mistake. Incredible job this by Enea Bastianini. Is going to be followed up with some joyous celebrations as we celebrate our 75th anniversary season, and taking the spoils at Silverstone in a stunner goes Enea Bastianini. What a performance by the Italian. He does complete his first ever double in the MotoGP World Championship.
The World Championship leader, that belongs to Jorge Martin.
The beast was utterly brilliant. Pecco Bagnaia steals the headlines once again in Spielberg. He takes the 14-lap Tissot's victory by nearly 5 seconds ahead of Jorge Martin. The Red Bull Ring in Austria is KTM's home Grand Prix, but Spielberg feels like Ducati's backyard. Another classic Spielberg battle. It's lights out. We are racing in MotoGP here in Austria. Martin Martin's made a great start from pole position. Mark Marquez going wrong the wrong way. He tangles with Frankie Morbidelli in the braking zone up the hill. Drama then for the 8 times world champion. Marc Marquez from 3rd to 13. And it's Martin though that leads. There is Marc Marquez then, way down.
Back at the front, Bagnaia wants it straight away. And Pecco Bagnaia takes the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix.
Martinez attack. Running a little bit wide. Bagnaia just humped the inside line, squeeze back on through. Marquez looking to attack back into the top 10.
Galicia's Spargo though trying to hold his teammate back, but Maverick Vinales left his braking a little bit too late into turn 3, and that's the easiest 8th place that Marc Marquez has ever taken. Martin is still right up behind Pecco Bagnaia. Miller out of 6th place.
Miller's gone down into chicane.
Bastianini is looking set for quite a lonely 3rd place.
As Marquez, he's getting pretty close to Marco Bezzecchi.
Marquez makes the move.
Here goes Marquez trying to use the element of surprise on the inside of Binder. Marquez goes through. It is more glory in Spielberg, more glory at the Red Bull Ring for Pecco Bagnaia. He takes the double here in Spielberg for the 2nd season in a row. Their current world champion. Great ride by Jorge Martin. Nenea Bastianini does take a very lonely 3rd place. Marc Marquez was 4th, but he paid a heavy price for the issue off the line.
But Pecco Bagnaia regains the advantage in Spielberg.
Marc Marquez, for the very first time, takes his first sprint success. Welcome to round 12 in 2024. Welcome to the Motorland Aragon circuit. The red flags, they expect the double victory here today for Marc Marquez. Who will be the Motorland Maestro of 2024? Lights out, and we are racing in MotoGP here in Aragon, and Bagnaia, history does repeat itself for the world champion, but it is the dream launch, exactly where he wanted to be. Marc Marquez leads his home Grand Prix at Motorland. Acosta then goes in hot pursuit to Marquez. Bagnaia was dropped back down to 7th place. Side by side we go. Oh, they both lean on each other, they're both off through the reverse corkscrew.